All right. Well, welcome everyone. Mailbox Money Masterclass. I know it's been a couple months. Last month, I just postponed the session because there were a few things going on that weren't quite ready, and it didn't make sense to just, jump in and talk more about the same old, same old. But there have been some fun developments in a few specific projects that not everybody, but many people here are involved in, including Shield and Guardian. And obviously, these are not the only options that we have available to us in the wide, wide world of crypto. But we do tend to, on these sessions, emphasize some of the projects that are that give us space to implement the overarching strategy. Okay. So, as many of you know, if you've been around for a while, typically what we want to do is focus on assets that have an option to create cash flow for us. So let me share screen here. There we go. You should be seeing a big white blank screen. And just kind of a quick recap for those of you who have been around a while, but perhaps brand new for those of you who have joined us in the recent few months. I know that there's been in the last 3 or 4 months, there's been over 100 new people that have jumped into the Web3 Wealth Builders group. So, for those of you who may not be like 100% familiar with how this whole process works, we're basically saying, hey, we're going to have a base asset, and this will typically be a pair, whatever that pair might be, ETH USDC. That pair will produce for us some kind of yield, and that yield can then be staked, locked, compounded, whatever the case. There's a myriad of options here. And then typically we'll look for options where we can repeat that cycle. So let me see, we got someone in the waiting room here. I'll let them in real quick. There we go. So we're always on the lookout for projects and possibilities that give us this option, the option to create looping, the option to create compounding. And once you find something of that nature, it's pretty straightforward how you can use this strategy, but then you can also layer this strategy on top of itself and create additional loops, additional compounding opportunities. So, I'm sure any of you who have been in the Nick Peterson world for a while, you've heard of the barbell strategy, as popularized by Nassim Taleb in, I think it was in Anti-Fragile or Black Swan, one of those books of his, where he talks about like, hey, typically you want like what he calls the barbell, which is you would want something on the one side of the barbell that is like very safe and reliable. And if you have enough resources in the safe and reliable side, then you can actively participate in the riskier, less reliable side of investing. And you don't have to worry about what might happen because you have a nice balanced perspective there. So as with so many of these concepts, they're fractal in nature, meaning there's like a barbell, and then there's another barbell inside of that, and then there's another barbell inside of that, and then there's another barbell inside of that. And so we might say, hey, in my total investment portfolio, I've got, reliable real estate, life insurance on the one side, and then on the maybe more speculative side, you could classify crypto as the more speculative side. Then we take just that side and we can break it apart even further. And we can say, hey, in the crypto realm, there are safer, more reliable projects. And then there are some more speculative, maybe you can call them risky type of projects. And as long as you keep all of this in balance, you're going to be okay. It's when we put everything into just the all or nothing mentality, we go, I'm just going to buy all of one thing, that potentially some misalignment can arise. So, but that being said, we've got our overall structure here. We've got this loop. And in the background, Shield protocol, a lot of you are familiar with Shield. The developer Wizard was the same guy who was the developer for Guard as well. simply meaning that this is someone creating projects and communities that has already proven himself reliable over time. So that's the only reason I mentioned that. And then within Shield Protocol, we've seen that there are multiple what we're calling profitable pathways. The first one that we talked about was, hey, this Shield protocol is creating for us synthetics. And so if I hold BNB, for example, I can now take that BNB, I can mint BNBX, and then I can take those two assets and I can pair them together. Literally just BNB paired with BNBX. And if we go to the Shield website, you'll see there are quite a few pairs that are already available. Obviously, as the project grows, there will be more. But we're just saying, hey, you got BNBX and BNB. We've got BNB and Shield. We've got Guard X now. This is a new addition. And we've got BNBX and Guard X. So that's the profitable pathway that I wanted to highlight today because I've been posting in the Shield Telegram group. I'm sure some of you have seen this. And for those of you who might want to explore it, you can go into the Shield Telegram group, just type in training. You literally just type in the word training, hit enter, and then it will give you a document that has all kinds of great training resources. Most of them are specific to Shield simply because I produced it for that project. But many of them are also like categorically you can apply the principles to pretty much anything. So what we've got now is this right here. So we've got a new profitable pathway available on Shield Protocol, and this is for the pairs involving guard and guard X. No need. Scott, do you mean you don't? What do you need, Scott? The Telegram group? Anyway, you can message me later, Scott, if you need something specific. I'll help you out if I can. So this profitable pathway here, I'll grab my little Zoom pen here. This is the starting point. Okay, so we just say to start off with this profitable pathway. And again, this is not the only one. This is just one that I'm choosing to highlight because it's a version of our looping or compounding strategy where an asset produces something else. That thing can be staked, locked, compounded, done something else with. That produces a new asset. Then you can redeem those, you can swap, you can repeat the cycle all over again. So what we're saying is, for those of you who either are fans of Guard for years, like Grant, like myself, like Jerry, like Scott, or for those of you who are maybe new to Guard, this could be an option for you. But the idea is we can take that asset and rather than just, oh, I'm holding this asset on its own inside my wallet, which is one option, right? Instead, we want to create an opportunity where that asset can be productive with something else. In this case, yield farming. Okay. And many of you who were perhaps around in the days of Night Swap, back when that was first launching, you saw a lot of these opportunities. It was like, well, I can pair Guard with BNB. I can become a liquidity provider. I get trading fees. I earn Night as a yield token. I can stake the Night. I can earn more Guard. I can earn BNB. I can earn any number of different assets that were available at the time. Okay. So similar principle at work here. It's just the mechanism is a little bit different. So I would take this guard. I'm going to mint guard X. Okay. Now on the Shield website, that is just going to be right here. Okay. You can see there's this little button that says mint. And I can actually go there now. Doo-doo. There it is. So this is where you would punch in guard, mint to guard X. Okay. And again, like I've made videos on this. That would all be in the training document. You can take a look at those for like the click by click. I typically don't do the click by click live here. But then you're going to take that guard X and you compare it. So now instead of just holding an asset unpaired in my wallet, which is fine, one way to do it, but hey, as long as we're being intentional, why not create an opportunity to earn additional assets? So I'm going to pair that, and I can pair it with either BNBX or guard. And again, on the Shield website, you will see that there are these options. If I go to the farms section, you've got the B&B, B&B X, and then down here, you've got guard and guard X and B&B X and guard X. Now, in my demo wallet here, I have a pair in B&B X and guard X. And so it is actively producing yield. You can see so far, it's already produced over 20,000 shield tokens. And then you kind of go like, well, what do I do with those shield tokens once I have them? Well, that's why I drew out this fun little diagram, because you say, okay, you're going to yield something. That something you're going to yield is going to be shield. And then once you have that shield, then you go, okay, well, what do I do with that additional asset that I just generated? Well, I could just sell it for a quick profit. That would be like the one-dimensional loop. That would be like, hey, nice, I got a little bit out of that, but you haven't like fully taken advantage of the overall possibility. So instead, I'm going to lock that shield. So remember, there's an option to stake, an option to lock. I'm going to lock that shield up. And when I lock it, and yes, there's a minimum lock period, but if you're not in a rush, then that's not a big deal. I would suggest that if you are in a rush, this is likely not a great option for you. Not, no judgment either way. If you are in a rush, then you would be more like, hey, I'm playing the day trading game. I want to like scalp quick profits. I want to day trade the big guns. I want to buy some Dogecoin and sell it a month later, like this kind of stuff. But if you're in the more like longer term patient investor mode, you lock that up and then you're going to earn, and this is the cool part, you're going to earn both BNB and Shield as a result of that. So the way Shield protocol is set up is if you stake, you can earn a little bit of extra Shield, but if you lock it up, then you earn Shield and BNB, which is pretty cool. So then once you have that, you're going to redeem it. Okay. Now, again, you want to be aware when you redeem it, there is a vesting
Hey,
period.
Brendan, can I just interrupt for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
The you're trying to share the Shield user interface. Yeah, we're still seeing your whiteboard. Is that right?
You're seeing just the whiteboard or you're seeing,
Yeah, yeah, we're just seeing the whiteboard. Yeah.
oh, uh, shoot. Okay. Give me 1 second here. That's weird because I pulled over the other graphic. Oh, I see what it's doing. That's weird. Okay, now can you see profitable pathways with shield and guard?
Gotcha this time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks for chiming in. That would make it very hard to understand what I'm saying. So again, start here, mint the guard X. We're gonna pair that guard X with guard or BNB X. That will allow us to yield shield. And then when we lock that shield, we're going to be earning BNB and shield. Okay. So then we redeem it, which is where we were just talking about. And when you redeem it, there's a vesting period. Okay. Again, this is not a rush kind of a thing. It's, hey, I get it. I have to wait a little bit to claim the things that I'm generating. That's okay. After it's vested and then you put it into your wallet, you're going to have a little bit of extra BNB and a little bit of extra shield. Okay. So you now have used your base assets, guard, BNBX, whatever the case, and you've produced something new, which in this example is a BNB and the shield. So that pulls us over here. And then we say, okay, we've got a couple options. The option I'm going to recommend is that we layer on a second loop, meaning for all the shield that I got over here, I'm going to create a new loop and I'm going to lock that shield. Okay, so this shield is going to create a nice little fun extra loop. And then the BNB that I earned, I'm going to swap that BNB for guard. Let's clear all my lines out here. There we go. I'm going to swap the BNB for guard. Then, and here's where the compounding, here's where the looping comes into play. Then I can take that guard and I'm going to mint more guard X. And then I can use that guard X. I can pair it with BNB X again, or I can pair it with additional guard, whatever the case may be. And then I'm going to repeat this process. So the idea is take a portion of what you're generating, that BNB and that extra shield, that extra BNB, that is kind of your leverage, so to speak. So I'm going to take that and create more of the base assets that I originally had. Okay. So I don't want to belabor this one too much, other than to just say, hey, if you're in this one, if you like Shield, if you like Guard, if you're playing around in those two projects, be aware of this. And then the inside the Shield Telegram group, you can just type in training, and then that will pop up a little Google Doc link for you. And then that Google Doc link will allow you to access these various resources, of which the graphics are one of them. Okay, so if we take all of that we just went through, and here we go. Hopefully that's my whiteboard again. If we take all of that we went through, you can see how it follows the same basic pattern. So I'm going to have my pair. In this case, we talked about, hey, I'm going to mint some guard X. I'm going to create a pair with guard X and BNB X. That pair is going to produce some kind of yield for me. And that yield is then going to create other opportunities where I can compound and circle back. And in this case, we talked about, you're going to get some BNB, you're going to get some extra guard. You can swap the BNB, or sorry, guard, that was supposed to say shield. You can loop that back. And then the BNB, you can swap for more guard and create the pair all over again. So there's like one additional layer of complexity here, but the layer of complexity is, again, the fractal nature of how all these things work. There was the basic looping compounding approach. And then inside of that, I'm creating like another little extra bonus, bonus loop, so to speak. So that is, to me, if you're going to be in this market long term, that is your best bet in terms of the overall strategy and approach. Now, we've talked about this before. Hey, I'm not in Shield, Brandon, so like this isn't relevant for me. Well, it actually still is, because you can take any two assets and just, like say you're the Bitcoin maxi and you like Bitcoin and you like ETH, and you go, gosh, Brandon, I'm just like sitting on 100 grand of Bitcoin and ETH. Like, what should I do? Should I just wait a while and sell it? I'm like, you could. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to take that Bitcoin. In this example, you'd have to wrapped Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm going to create a pair. And the Bitcoin Ethereum pair, at this stage, I mean, I'd say this is probably the strongest, most reliable pair, just in terms of you as an investor sleeping easy at night. But you're not going to get 200% APR on a pair like this. But that's okay, because if you're going to play the like chilled out, reliable side of crypto, you go, hey, I'm going to have some Bitcoin and ETH. I'm going to farm this. I'm going to get, I don't know, you'll probably get maybe 20 to 30% APR. And this is where, again, we talk about V2 versus V3 liquidity. V3 liquidity, you can set a range. And with Bitcoin and ETH, you can set a pretty wide range. Those two assets are very correlated with one another over the course of the long haul, meaning like, yeah, they might separate, but they kind of more or less, big picture, when you zoom out, they kind of more or less rise and fall together. Obviously, there's going to be some fluctuations, but you'd probably earn about a 20 to 30% APR on a Bitcoin on ETH, and then you're going to get your yield. Now, if you're doing something like, hey, I'm, farming on Uniswap. Maybe you're using an app like Crystal to leverage the Uniswap market makers, and you're gonna be on the Arbitrum network, let's say. So I'm on the Arbitrum network, I'm using Uniswap, the DEX, I'm creating a yield. Well, that yield is going to get paid to me in wrapped Bitcoin and ETH. Okay. So if I was just playing the simplest version of this, I would just pair those up and I would compound it and I would put it right back into that original pair. So you can see how, like, once you learn how to do this, it's actually pretty simple and straightforward. Like, yeah, you got to learn how to do everything, but if you want the simplest strat, like, okay, there it is, Bitcoin and ETH, like, just pair those. You're going to earn probably a 20 to 30% APR, and that's just in yield. So I'm not even accounting for any long-term growth or appreciation of those base assets. This is just the cash flow that you're generating, the 20 to 30%. And then I can take that cash flow, pair it up, and put it right back into the process. So in terms of the barbell, remember we talked about the barbell, like safe and reliable, slightly riskier, more speculative. This would be your safer, more reliable side, where you go, okay, Bitcoin and ETH, like, yeah, it's crypto. The whole thing could explode tomorrow. At this point, that doesn't look likely. So let me jump into, two of the highest, uh, two of the strongest projects by market cap, meaning like basically total adoption, and just farm those. Now, on the split side, on the other side, you could say, okay, I want to take my Bitcoin and ETH that I'm earning from this process. I'm just going to slap some base capital over here. So like, I don't know, pick a number. Let's say you're putting 50K over here. I'm going to earn my 20 to 30% in yield. I'm going to get long-term appreciation on those assets. Fantastic. I'm going to take that 20 to 30% APR, and what would that be? So 20% would be 10K. So let's just pretend it's been a year and you got exactly 10K. It'll never work out that that clean. But again, just for illustration purposes, makes it easier to talk about. Yeah, see, and Scott, that's a good point. All crypto is on you. So you would say, here's Scott's barbell. He's got, I don't know what you have, Scott. Let's say real estate. Okay, I'm just making this up. You got real estate on the reliable side, you've got crypto on the risk side. Okay, so you say, hey, all the crypto's on my risky side. Great. So now, fractal nature of reality, we're going to pull just that risky side over here, and we're going to design a new barbell. So it's a barbell within a barbell. And you'll see that you could go deeper. It's like inception barbells, and you say, okay, inside that one side of my barbell, now there's two sides to that, which could be, hey, I got Bitcoin over here, and on the speculative side, I've got Pepe the frog coin or something like that, right? So you could balance it that way. So now we're saying, hey, if I want to take that 10K that I earned over the course of the year, and these are longer time frames than we're used to with crypto. Like typically people are going to say, "Oh, I made X in 2 months in crypto," or whatever the case may be. We're saying, no, this is like value investing strategies. So if you want to be in the market long term, this would be more the approach that you take. So I'm going to take that 10K and I say, you know what? There are some projects that I really, really like that I don't want to just stuff all my base capital into. Instead, I want to slowly accumulate them over time. So over here, I go, you know what? I might buy some Guard. I might buy some Solana. I might want to try some Mixie and Paragon. Okay. Just examples, right? So let's say you wanted to take the yield from this and apply it to that profitable pathway that we just talked about. Because, you go, I like Guard, I like Shield. So you would take this Guard that you bought and you would pull it out. Whoop, and then down here, you would say, okay, I'm going to pair that Guard. Well, first I'm going to mint Guard X. Then I'm going to sell some of it for some of my yield, my Bitcoin ETH yield for some BNB. I'm going to mint some BNBX. I'm going to create a new pair. And we just went through this, right? So that's going to yield shield. Shield, you're going to lock, and the lock generates BNB shield. The shield, I'm going to put right back into the lock, circle that up, and this BNB, I'm going to sell for more guard. Okay, and you can repeat the cycle there. So again, this would be a compounding loop inside of a compounding loop because you don't have to, I mean, there's lots of options here, but you don't have to just take your base capital and put it all into one or two somethings. You might say, I want to take all my base capital as like a starting point and put it into something super reliable. And this works really well, especially if you've got like a seven-figure portfolio where you go, yeah, I want to play part of this as conservatively as possible. So maybe I do just take a Bitcoin ETH pair. Or maybe you say, hey, I want to pair wrapped Bitcoin and USDC, or I want to pair ETH and USDT. You could pair those reliable assets with stable coins as well. Just checking the chat there. So the point is, there are many ways to play this. And it's not about saying, oh, you better buy ETH or you better buy Sol or you better buy Guard or any of these things. It's more about saying when you have options in an environment like this, you want to first evaluate yourself, right? So you would say, hey, what's my risk profile? Okay. And this is where you would go, all right, am I someone who, if I buy a risky asset, then I'm like not sleeping at night? And that's real. Okay. It happened to me back in like when I first started in crypto, I was doing all meme coins, like 100% meme coins. The only reason I bought ETH was so I could buy more meme coins on the Ethereum network. But after a few months of doing that, you win some big, you lose some big, you win some big. It's just like so up and down. I just decided, I don't really want to keep doing this because I would literally like wake up at 2:30 in the morning thinking like, oh my gosh, should I have sold that coin 2 hours ago? It was that intense. So you got to know a little bit about yourself to know, hey, how do I personally react to that sort of thing? So you got to know your risk profile. You got to know your time horizon because if you are trying to make as much money as possible in the next 3 months, this might not be the approach for you. In fact, it probably isn't because you would be more likely to hit your goal in the short term if you just jump in on some of the, more speculative things that have high upside potential. That being said, you could also lose it all on those kinds of assets. So that's why I say like you have to evaluate your own risk profile, you have to evaluate your own time horizon, and then you also have to evaluate uh, your end goal. Okay. What I mean is, if you're starting with 2 million in capital and your end goal is like, gosh, if I had 5 million, like I'd be set for life. Like I could live modestly, go on a few vacations, like I'd be totally chill. Well, now you go, okay, if I'm starting at 2 million and I just have to get to 5 million and I'm not in a rush because I've got other income sources and I'm just hanging out. Okay, cool. I only need to do this in 5 years. And I don't know how the math works out on this, but you would reverse engineer that and figure out what your average percentage gain per year is. Meaning, I'll just do a quick little grab my calculator here. And I said, okay, if I got 2 million and I'm going to do, let's say 20% a year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Wow, I didn't plan that. That actually is almost exactly 5 million. So the reason I use that as an example is to say, hey, if I'm trying to go from 2 million to 5 million and I have a 5 year time horizon, I don't need to do this in year one. If I do, bonus, but I'm actually going to take an approach that would get me there. And I'd say, okay, I only actually need 20% per year compounded annually. So what that would do is allow me to say, hey, if that's what my goal is, that's my time horizon, I could just open a Bitcoin ETH position and kind of just ride it out. That would be the simplest, least stressful way to get to exactly where I want to go. Okay. But if my end goal is, hey, I'm starting to with 2 million and I want to get to 20 million and I want to do it in 5 years, well, great. Then I need a higher percentage APR or I need to adjust my time horizon, whatever the case may be. Okay. So the point here is just to say risk profile, time horizon, end goal, these variables will inform what projects you actually end up investing in and how much of your portfolio you put on this side of the barbell versus how much of your portfolio you put on the other side of the barbell. That's the kind of stuff that, you can't really like ask someone else, hey, what should this be for me? There's no like should. It's more like, hey, you get to decide all of these variables for yourself ahead of time. Great. And then those variables inform not only what type of crypto or other asset classes you invest in, but it also starts to inform your strategy, which for me, and this is why I share this stuff and teach this stuff, for me, it's exactly what we shared before. It's that the little one, two, three boxes, do, 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 and then we compound, loop it right back around. But I also know for me, I'm not looking to pull out cash from my crypto portfolio that I'm going to spend on daily living expenses, on rent, on whatever else. I'm looking to leave that money in the market and just let it keep compounding because I have a longer preference for my time horizon. All right, let's pause there. Any questions, any thoughts, any points of clarification that anyone would like to jump in with? And I saw a few more people jump in. We got Phil, we got Gus, we got Ken, we got John, we got Tavia, we got James. So anyone who jumped in, a little bit after the starting point, feel free to, drop a comment in the chat. Also, the group is small enough here live, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to, and we can jam a little bit. Typically, these sessions, I have a little bit of content prepared, but then also want to just like open up and create some space for dialogue and interactivity. All right, everyone's shy today. That's okay. I'm gonna I'll leave it open for a couple more minutes if anybody wants to jump in. Otherwise, I'll give you back 20 minutes of your day and we'll call it good.
I was just going to say, Brandon, um, I'll just put my video on so you can see me.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. You mentioned Mixie and Paragon, and just looking at the market cap of Mixie this morning, it's a 50 million market cap. 2 weeks ago, you could have bought it at 2 million. It's on the riskier side, but you talked about that price appreciation, and it's just something to consider.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect example. If I had taken, a chunk, if anyone had taken a chunk of their yield and just say, hey, I'm going to drop $1,000 into this small $2 million market cap token Mixie, and boom, a week later, great, you just, 10x, 20x, more than that, more than 20. So your 1,000 became 20,000. It's a perfect example, right? So you say, hey, this is on the more speculative, riskier side. But if I'm generating yield through this kind of a strategy, then it's house money in a sense. You can say, all right, I'm going to risk it, but worst case scenario, I lose that $1,000. I still have all my base capital protected and preserved over here. Gus, I missed the beginning. Is that 20% compounding return realistic? Is it based on DeFi yields, asset price appreciation, or both? So, Gus, the 20% APR is a realistic estimate for the pair that I shared, which was Bitcoin and ETH. There are many other pairs that actually return higher APRs. So for example, Pendle USDT, that will fluctuate from, I've seen it as high as 250% APR. I've seen it down to 40% APR. But somewhere in the middle will be like the average over time. So usually, like in the mastermind, what we talk about is setting your target range for 50 to 100% per year on average, meaning it'll fluctuate, sometimes higher, sometimes lower, but the average is in between. And that accounts for just the yield that is generated by you being a liquidity provider. It does not account for price action, so whether price up or price down. And that's because nobody can predict exactly what that is. What happens is on like a user interface like Crystal, for example, they'll give you an estimated APR. They'll base that on the previous 30 days of trade volume because trade volume is what creates the yield. So if you're earning a portion of the trading fees that are generated, then obviously if there's more trade volume, there will be more total yield to be distributed amongst liquidity providers. So they can have, it's not like 100% accurate because it's predictive, but they can show you approximately what your APR is going to be over the course of the next 7 days, 14 days, 30 days. And then obviously, if it continues to perform, you can assume that it'll still be around that same APR there. But any like asset price appreciation, so like in the Bitcoin ETH example, I could say, hey, I'm going to farm these two. I'm going to take my 20% or whatever it is. That's a bonus on top of everything else. Whereas if I just held those unpaired, I would just get potential price appreciation. Now I'm saying I get potential price appreciation plus the cash flow from the yield. So we've talked about this before. The easiest, I think, metaphor is real estate. It's not a perfect metaphor because different asset classes, obviously. But if I buy a property for $1 million and I sell it 10 years later for $2 million, I get to enjoy the price appreciation. If I buy it for $1 million and I rent it out for 10 years and it goes up to $2 million, I get the price appreciation and I get 10 years of cash flow, 10 years of rental fee income that was generated by the asset. So anytime, just principle wise, anytime you have an asset that is a productive asset rather than a non-productive asset, it can produce something else of value. That's why in crypto we call it yield farming, because literally the farming metaphor works in this case too. I buy 100 acres of land. I can hold the land and sell it 10, 20, 30 years later. Probably that land went up in value in like denominated in dollars. Or I can buy that 10, 100 acres of farmland. I can plant potatoes. Then the land is producing something of value. I sell the potatoes. I can buy more land. Now I have 105 acres. Now I have 108 acres. Now I have 120 acres. So over that same 10-year span, instead of just 100 acres of land, if you compound and take the produce, the yield, and put it back into more land, then you could potentially have 3, 4, 500 acres of farming land, and in which case not only did your base asset grow, but the rate at which that asset can produce yield also increases. Ken, what stable coin do you recommend pairing ETH or SOL with? What is a good APR for those pairs? So pairing ETH or SOL with a stable coin, the ones right now that you'll see traded at the highest volume while also still being trusted, reliable stable coins, you're probably looking at either USDC or USDT. Um, BUSD on the BNB network, like say you want to do BNB and BUSD, that would also be a reliable pair. But just for ETH or SOL, typically USDC and USDT. You'll see, especially I think in the next probably 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a ton of new stable coins pop up everywhere. But you'll also see a lot of stable coins crumble and fall and implode on themselves. We've seen this in the past too. So often what happens, Ken, is when a new network pops up, it was on the base network for a while. When the base network was just popping off, people were producing these yield farming platforms. XtraFi was one good example. And they had leveraged farming and they had, I think it was overnight finance or some new project had a different stable coin. And you were getting, it was like pairing stable coins with base and stable coins and ETH, and they were paying out like 2, 3, 400% APR. That was like crazy good for what, but the risk then, the risk is like, hey, is that stable coin going to last for more than a year? We don't always know. So I would say if you're looking for reliability, which if you're asking about ETH or Sol, I assume that's at least part of the equation for you. And then if for example, if I'd said Sol and USDC, then I would go to Orca and I would find that the daily APRs on Sol and USDC typically will fluctuate anywhere from zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.5, which 0.27% daily is the equivalent of a 100% yearly APR. So it'll fluctuate. It'll go below 100 very frequently, but average over time, I think over the last, I don't know, year and a half-ish, the Sol USDC pair, it depends on your range too, of course, but reasonable ranges will average 100% or more APR on a pair like that. So yeah, good question. That's a great example of, hey, if I want to play this on the reliable side, I want to use my Sol, use my ETH. What's one possibility that I can jump in with? Because you go, hey, if I was going to hold the Sol in USDC anyway, pair it together, do that for a year. And the last, like if you had done that a year ago, yeah, Sol, it went up to whatever, 250 or 260 or something at one point. It went down to 110, 120. But for the most part, it's kind of moved sideways. Like there have been these spikes up and spikes down, but for the most part, it kind of just moves sideways, meaning you probably potentially missed out on a year of productivity, a year of farming. But that being said, it's never too late to start now if you want to start leveraging a strategy like this. You could ride that Sol up on the next, ride that asset pair up on the next big pump that we anticipate is coming soon. And then the cool thing about it is you can also ride these pairs on the way down because there's still trade volume even as the assets are losing value in terms of how they're compared to the US dollar. So if you have a long time horizon, you go, I love crypto, I'm going to be here for a while, and you don't necessarily want to like cash out a massive chunk, you could just stay in liquidity pairs and yield farming on the way down and then also on the next leg up because it'll go down sideways a little bit and then kind of gradually transition into next cycle's bull run. So there's a lot of different ways to play it. The point here is that you have all of these options available to you. What else? Cool. All right. Couple of housekeeping items. I probably should have announced these at the beginning for people watching the replay, but here we are. Um, we are going to by July, I'm going to migrate the group back to the Facebook group. I tried out the school platform for a little bit. It's not as awesome as I thought it was going to be. And so I'll make all these posts inside the school group as well, just to like remind everybody, let you know. I'll send out email reminders and all that stuff. But by the end of this month, we are going to go back to just using the patient investor, crypto and DeFi, the Facebook group. So nothing really changes. Like you'll have access to all the same content. If you've been here for a while, you know you have access to the 7-day crypto profit accelerator. If you haven't gone through that course yet, super valuable. I would highly recommend it. At least give yourself exposure to the big picture, to the skill set to see how it works, to see how you can participate as a yield farmer in this market. And then I'll also be announcing the live sessions inside of the Facebook group as well. So probably what I'll do is for the next one, I'll do like one final announcement in the school group, like ahead of time, and then I'll be shutting that one down. Okay. So the content that's hosted there, is it an open face? Yes, Scott, it is an open Facebook group. If you, in fact, let me drop the link in here now. Give me one second, I'll grab the link. Scott, you might be in there already. I just stopped being as active in that one because I was trying to migrate everything over to the school group. But for those of you watching here, there you go. That is the Facebook group. It's there in the chat. So if you got that pulled open, just go ahead and click that now, and then you can double check if you're already in there. There was already a lot of overlap, like a lot of people were in both groups. So that's why I wanted to just like simplify. We'll just use the Facebook group. And that way I don't have to make an announcement in 5 different places every time we have one of these sessions. We'll continue to do these Mailbox Money Masterclasses on approximately a once per month basis. And then I always provide the recordings as well. So if you miss one, and especially in the school group now, like you can go and check out the last, 5, 6 months of recordings. Um, the danger in that though is like some of the information might be old. I don't know. It's hard to say off the top of my head. But that's why we keep doing the live sessions as well. So probably your best bet is watch, maybe one or two in the past, and then just stick around for the newer stuff, the live sessions, because the market is constantly changing, and we have to be willing to adapt to a changing market. So. All right, that is it for today. Thank you, everyone who is here with us live. And for those of you watching on the replay, you can always reach out to me directly, either via Facebook or in the school group. So the school group does have a messenger feature, and you can find me in either one of those places if you have some questions, if you're curious about the mastermind, if you want to fill out an application, whatever the case may be, that is available to you. And I'm also around on Telegram. My handle on Telegram is at Original Hofer, Hofer, at Original Hofer. If you reach out to me on Telegram, though, you have to introduce yourself, tell me who you are, tell me where you found me, because otherwise on Telegram, I get spam messages from shady characters like all day, every day. And so anyone from this group, I just ask that you like let me know, hey, I'm in the Web3 Wealth Builders group. Here's how I found you. And that way I know that you are legit and a real human. So, all right, that's it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great Monday, and I will catch you again next time.